Ja Morant has unfortunately left tonight's game after taking a really hard fall, landing directly on his front left hip. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look what exactly might have happened here, how serious this could be, and what to expect with the evaluation for Ja. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel, as always, is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, I'm recording this video. It is halftime of tonight's game. I don't think we have gotten any official word yet on Ja Morant. I will say the fact that we saw him remove his jersey, he could barely put any weight on it. The Grizzlies seem to be up by quite a bit in this game. I would be very surprised if we see him return. Hopefully we do. Hopefully by the time this gets up there, we see him back on the court, but I would be very surprised. Now, looking back at this play, we can actually get a lot of insight from the evaluation and just the mechanism here on what could be injured. As Ja goes up, remember, what goes up must come down. I don't want to be critical of Ja's playing style, but he definitely is willing to accept some more risk by trying to make these highly acrobatic, highly skilled plays, trying to go up and dunk over another player. You get thrown off when you're in the air, you come down and land unexpectedly, and your body can't protect yourself. As he comes down, Ja's trying to brace his fall, but you see how firmly the front left portion of his hip lands on the hard court. Now, this is actually a good thing because he's not landing with any direct load through a joint. If he landed on his knee with his knee bent, that's going to put trauma on the knee. It's going to put trauma through the hip ball and socket. Everything seems to be taken by the brunt of the front of his hip, similar to what we saw with Jimmy Butler, but of course this time on the front side instead of the back side of the pelvis. Again, one more view here as we go through. Ja goes up, comes down, and as he lands, you see how firmly he comes down on the front left portion of his hip. There's no direct load into his joints. He doesn't seem to be having any wrist or shoulder pain with like a foosh type of injury like we saw with Jason Tatum. This seems to be just a direct contusion on the front of his hip. We could also see Ja pretty clearly grabbing at that front left portion of his hip and pelvis. We see the medical staff member here palpating on that area. So just more clues about the anatomic structure of the location that we need to be concerned about. Best case scenario here is we're just dealing with a contusion or a bruise in the muscle. But yes, something like a fracture is always going to be on the differential with this hard of a fall and this amount of pain. If we look here with our anatomy model, basically the front of the pelvis is going to be the ilium. The ilium, and specifically a spot called the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, is going to be that bony prominence that you can actually push on and feel yourself. If you push down in the front of your pelvis at the lower part of your abdomen, that bony prominence is going to be this ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine. It's the origin of a number of muscles that come off of our hips, specifically sartorius muscle, part of the TFL, the tensor fascia lata, is going to come off of that area, and it has very minimal padding and protection from a direct impact. You can see here from this side profile how much that ASIS is going to protrude outwards. Now below that, deeper in the muscle, is going to be the AIIS, the anterior inferior iliac spine. And so remember, anterior, front, superior, top, and then ilium, the spine, that process of the ilium. This is right at that area where Ja Morant was grabbing. This is where the medical staff was palpating. This is going to be the most likely structure who have taken the brunt of that trauma. There's not much padding there. The quad was not able to absorb a lot of the load. Direct impact on that peak bony prominence. That's a lot of force, but applied over a very small area, which is going to increase the pressure and increase the trauma potential. You can think of this as almost analogous to a hip pointer that we see in sports like football, where somebody lands on more their side and gets that deep bruising in the iliac crest, the more lateral portion of the ilium and the hip bone. But again, that is going to be, I think, best case scenario here. If that's all that we see, this is just extensive bone bruising, I would not expect Ja to be ruled out. However, we've seen with players like Chet Holmgren come down and develop pelvic fractures after falls like this, and so absolutely a fracture is going to be in the differential. We'll see x-rays hopefully by the end of the game. We've heard a report of negative x-rays. I will tell you, x-rays around the pelvis are not going to be the most conclusive for picking up these subtle fractures, and so I anticipate further imaging tomorrow. And again, recording this at halftime, hopefully Ja comes back. I would be very surprised with the amount of pain and the things to keep in mind. Again, contusion, best case scenario to that ASIS on the front of the pelvis. Always, though, have to keep fracture on the differential. I'm not as worried about impact or trauma to the joints because there was no axial loading through his hip joint, through his knee. I think we're dealing with either that contusion or potential for a fracture. Stay tuned for more to hear any updates. And as always, let me know questions or comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.